Hello, everybody. It's me, Fee, White Zulu, and I want to welcome you to another chapter of, another chapter of Okavango Diary. And I hope you're enjoying these readings. I want to welcome you all. And if you are enjoying them, please share or press the like button or whatever people do if they want to. I'm sorry, I'm a bit Diomaka today. I haven't got any words in front of me to read, so I'm doing this off the cuff. However, this is a greeting to you all and a welcome, and I hope that you enjoy these chapters that I'm reading out. They go out twice a week, Wednesdays and Saturdays, if all goes well. And enjoy them, and thank you so much for listening to them. Share them around. Thank you, and goodbye. Diary, Friday, 1st of August, 7 a.m. Got to the laundry as instructed by the manageress, to find her raising hell with the 3 staff there for being late, which they weren't, as it was exactly 7 o'clock, and half her personal washing was missing. Then I had to follow her to the kitchen, where she raised more hell there. I'm not quite sure why. Then she berated more staff at breakfast, as the toast for 25 people wasn't ready. Understandably, as we only had 2 small toasters, since it was only designed to cater for 16 guests at a time, and Leah was now trembling with fright so badly she couldn't function. And so it went on until 10 a.m. when the permanent managing couple's plane left. As the boat with them on board pulled away from the bank, Nicky said, "Thank God we got rid of the bitch from hell at last." Thereafter, she is known as the BFH. Nicky is a darling, petite, pretty, her dark hair cut in a short bob, and with a steely determination to do everything right. We like each other on sight and become excellent friends. The boat from the airstrip came back 20 minutes later, carrying Fred and Kutsi. What a lovely surprise! I almost fell on her neck and kissed her smiling black face. At Tsaro, promptly after I had left, and the permanent manageress had resumed her place, the entire females' kitchen staff had gone on strike and refused to leave their village to come to work. They were fed up with the way she treated them. Kutsi, the younger and now brilliant cook there, has resigned because she and the permanent manageress just cannot get on, and she had been easily persuaded by Fred to come across and do a month at Xugana with us, in lieu of going on a month's paid leave. As they are drastically short of cooks here, I can see why. At Tsaro camp, Kutsi had been made chief cook, as she was able to read and write and had had some schooling. She was highly intelligent, eager to learn new attributes and always smiling, which boosted the morale of everybody else on the staff. I had helped her enormously by teaching her to apply my own cordon bleu skills, particularly with the garnishes and presentation, and she had become a really proficient and inventive cook. Here, they only have one woman in her late 40s who can cook, but she's struggling, and she's not allowed to use anything but the manageress's work-to-rule system, and had never been allowed to branch out or experiment with the presentation and use her imagination. As they were lined up to meet me at the kitchen, instead of a row of surly, sullen faces which I had encountered at Sarrow Camp on my very first day there, Coetzee gave me a wink, and I knew I wouldn't have to struggle with the staff here either. I was met with a lot of direct eye contact and cautious smiles in case they got into trouble from the permanent boss who was standing next to me. Word spread quickly and they carried on calling me Cece here. After a fairly chilly start with the Sarrow black staff, we had settled down into a good and cheerful working relationship, which I intended to carry over into Xugana for the month. A month ago, after a few days at my new camp at Sarrow, I'd learnt the reason Fred had been so distant with me at the beginning of my sojourn. In the bakkie on the way back from the airstrip on my arrival, I chatted to him, explaining that I'd grown up with Mrs. Heartless and had known her and her family all my life. He assumed that we were great friends, but in fact, the entire staff of Heartless Safaris hated their employers with a deadly loathing. They were incredibly rich, almost in the Oppenheimer League, but like many very rich people I have known, they were extremely parsimonious, mean, and penny-pinching. Our salaries were not nearly enough for the amount of work we do and hours we keep, often staying up with the guests until 3 or 4 in the morning, while they drink liqueurs and brandy, and make the most of their very expensive holiday, while we white staff have to stay up with them in order to escort them back to their masasas, guiding them past hippos, crocodiles, lions, hyenas, and elephants, even the odd leopard. We still have to get up at 6:30 in the morning, though, to open up the laundry and the kitchen, get breakfast started and prepare everything for the laundry and bed changes. At a later stage I will explain how that was done, since there's no electricity. So, very often, we only got 3 hours of sleep, and most of those were spent chasing elephants out of the camp. Out of our paltry salaries, we had to pay for every flight to and from the camps and Maun, and our drinks, including bottled water, all at guest prices, which were mainly pounds and dollars. Of course, we were paid in Botswana pula, which was a lot weaker than the rand in 1970. So we worked really hard and long hours and were left with practically no salary at all. This applies to all the staff, especially to the alcoholic drinks if we can afford them, and we're all working in over 50 degrees heat, so if we are thirsty to the point of dehydration, we have to go to the bar and ask for 500 milliliter bottle of water and pay 4 times as much as if we had bought it in Maun. The safari company had built a small shop at Xugana for the staff and stocked it with basics like toothpaste, mosquito repellent, toiletries, and particularly deodorant. But again, they made a 200% profit on these basic items. This did not endear the staff to their employers, and Fred had assumed that I was friendly with them. I hadn't seen the woman boss since we were teenagers because they lived a totally different lifestyle from ours, and it was really our parents who'd glommed onto their parents to have annual skiing holidays and Mediterranean yacht trips together. And during the month at Sarrow, I'd heard even more hair-raising stories about how heartless our employers are. So I too distanced myself from them and told them the truth, that we barely knew each other these days. The worst thing they did at Sarrow was when Fred's wife took really ill, suspectedly with a mild heart attack. They refused to fly her out until they had found a replacement, me. It was all done very grudgingly and with bad grace, and Mrs. Hartless told me that Fred's wife was just mad in the head and just putting it on. It turned out that she was seriously ill and had to be admitted to Groote Hospital for heart surgery. Once Fred realized that I barely knew them by this time, 30-something years later, he thawed out, and we became not only an excellent team, but very good friends as well. All is well now. Nicky is a darling, very friendly and full of fun, but unfortunately leaving to do a month in Maun at head office on Sunday. Kira is coming in to replace her for the month. Lunch and dinner went fine. The English family had left, so we were now 19 altogether. During dinner, Fred disappeared, and when I asked her where he was, Nicky just said casually, "Oh, he's just gone to chase Saddam out of the camp as he's back." Saddam is a big lone bull elephant who frequently comes to eat in the camp, causing the most enormous amount of damage by breaking branches off and knocking big trees onto and destroying the buildings. There used to be a 12-bore shotgun in the office, which Fred would fire near him to scare him off, but the gun has gone back to Maun with the owner of Heartless Safaris. So Fred was shouting and throwing things at the elephant, who ignored him and calmly carried on munching. I passed all this on to the guests, well, those who could understand English. The Frenchwoman was correcting my admittedly rather rusty French without a glimmer of a smile every time I opened my mouth. So I was avoiding her by now. And the Italians, oh, well, I'll tell you about them later. Asked what they should do, so I said nothing, unless he comes into the dining area, in which case run into the gift shop or the bar. We actually have an elephant night watchman called Oscar, a rotund little river bushman who speaks a little English but some Afrikaans and Portuguese, as well as Tswana. He is also attending Bible school at the Zionist Christian Church in his spare time. His sole duty is to keep elephants out of the camp at night. His supposed method of doing so is to bang on an empty tin, his blik, with a stick, as well as hurl half bricks and stones at them, while shouting loudly. What he actually does is drag all the cushions off to make a mattress on the floor of the guest loo, where he sleeps all night after having polished off what he can find in the bar that isn't locked away. The kitchen has to be locked as well, not for hyenas like at Sarrow, but to stop Oscar from cleaning it out as well. Eventually, very late, and after escorting each guest back to their accommodation, we staff finally went to bed. As I was drifting off, I felt my eardrums begin to flutter and sat bolt upright on my bed. The last time I'd had that sensation was when I was in my last year at school and sitting at the teacher's table on the platform, supervising prep for a class of second formers. After the flutter, my table had begun to vibrate, and finally the whole building was shaking and rocking slightly. It only went on for a couple of minutes, but the earthquake seemed to take forever and had shaken me in more ways than one. Then I heard the sound of elephants munching right next to my ear, and I realized that it was the subsonic communication between the elephants that I was feeling. I peeked cautiously out of the door of my hut into the dark and saw an elephant browsing casually off the tree, which is growing against my dwelling. There's a resounding thud as a rock hurled by Oscar at the elephant missed and connected the wall of my home, which shook under the impact. The elephant didn't even pause in his munching and simply reached out with its trunk just past my nose to yank another branch off. There was pandemonium. Fred had now joined in by grabbing some empty wine bottles from the bar, and with Nicky holding the torch so he could see where to aim, he said, "I wonder if the bastard would prefer a Chardonnay or a Rosé," as he hurled them at the elephant, missed, and got a direct hit on my hut again. I shouted, "You're doing more damage than the elephants." And so the night went on. The pattern went a bit like this: elephants breaking branches, heavy thudding of feet running past, the clanging of Oscar beating his blick with a stick, then a yell and a thump as half a brick hits my hut, then more running, away this time, as the elephant charges Oscar. Finally, in the distance, a few bars of a hymn like "Onward, Christian Soldiers," as Oscar sings to himself to summon up the courage to regroup his rocks and start all over again. Very early the next morning, Nicky and I go around the camp, picking up pieces of broken glass from the wine bottles. We don't want the Sitatunga to cut themselves. This species is a very rare marsh-dwelling antelope, very similar to the bushbuck, but has feet adapted to swampy terrain, elongated hooves with wide splay, and naked pad-like pastern, who graze the lush green lawns around the camp at night, a little like the reindeer whose hooves are similar and designed to resemble little double skis. I must end now, have to chase some baboons out of the camp and get this letter into the mailbag and onto Alpha Golf Whiskey. Xugana is a particularly beautiful camp, set on the shores of a very large island in the wet season, but which becomes a peninsula when the waters recede enough for the old Bedford lorry to manage to trek our heavy supplies, like diesel, maize meal for the staff, flour, sugar, and tin goods overland. Now, in August, the waters which flowed down from the highlands of Angola have risen to their full summertime levels.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to my videos and my stories of my life. And I want to thank John Moslane for being what I call the sound engineer, but I'm sure there's a more professional word for it. However, faithful, and for 4 years now, I think, he has been here for me every Wednesday. Well, I think it's Wednesdays, but once a week to record 2 chapters of whichever book it is I'm reading. And without him, this couldn't be done. So a big thank you to John. Also, Sean van Vuren, we send the videos to him. Sorry, I'm not reading this. I'm just doing it off the cuff. And my brain is a bit Jumaka. And Sean uploads them to the YouTube channel where you can find them all in playlists. He does it beautifully. And I want to thank them both for all the help that they give me. Well, it's not help. They do everything for me. And it's a great asset. So Also, I have a website called whitezulubook.com, obviously www in front of it, but you'll find it there. Quite easy to find. Johnny Clegg's called The White Zulu. Mine's called White Zulu. And you will find on my website, you'll find all kinds of photographs going way back to when my ancestors settled in the Cape, 1652. Well, not photographs of them, but descriptions. This photograph of my grandmother's wedding, and lovely, lovely photos of the farm we still own. My sister sent me a photograph this morning of the farm in midsummer, and she says how beautiful it's looking. I've had a lot of rain. So, just want to thank my helpers, John and Sean, to thank you all for listening, and also please share this with everybody else. Hit the like button and enjoy. Goodbye.